Goeiemôre en welkom terug. Nou kyk, die kulkunstenaars, Brendon, en Lee kuier vanoggend hier en hulle is wêreldklas kulkunstenaars. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Hello.
It is so lovely to have you guys here, and like I said, world-class magicians, and really world-class because you have toured everywhere and you're still touring everywhere. But I want to go back a little bit. Brendon, let's start with you. Where did this start for you, the love of magic?
Yeah, so actually I'm from PE, or now Gqeberha, and I started off doing magic when I was about 12 years old, just learning a few sort of card tricks, coin tricks and things like that. And from there I started basically walking around various small restaurants in PE and doing these tricks. And that's where I sort of just started. And then next thing you know, people are saying, can you come and do my uncle's birthday and stuff like that. And next thing you know, we're flying off to Las Vegas doing shows there. So it was quite a crazy journey. But yeah, it started off just small with cards and coins and things like that for me, yeah.
That's incredible. Is there, like, when you speak about the birthday parties, for example, is there like a trick people always ask for where they go, please do this one or something like that?
Yeah, usually they ask me to make their husbands disappear.
Oh, wow, okay, good.
No, I'm kidding around. No, you know, a lot of people do really love card tricks, I find.
Yes.
And people do like some of the visual stuff, things that, like, you know, you're looking at and you're like, your eyes, like, you can't believe your own eyes.
Yes.
Because you're seeing this crazy thing happen. So, you know, it's no one particular trick, but it's things that are like that that I think people really enjoy, as well as a type of magic called mentalism, which is sort of magic of the mind and getting inside of people's heads a little bit, you know.
And Lee, where did it start for you?
Well, I always had an interest in sort of magic growing up and things like that. But actually my focus was more sort of escapes or escapology. You know, I grew up watching MacGyver, 18, things like that. So
Yes.
I like sort of, and also reading about Harry Houdini.
Yes.
And, you know, trying to test the body. Can I escape a situation or get out of these restraints? And it was only actually when I sort of traveled to the UK that I realized that people still do escapology as a art form. So then I sort of getting back into it. And then when I came back to South Africa, I was sort of still doing it just for myself. But then I had an opportunity where someone asked me if I can perform at a sort of a club meeting for animal welfare. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And then sort of like 12 years later, I'm still doing it. And like Brendon said, we traveled to Vegas doing sort of all these crazy things. So
That is incredible, but both of you specialize in certain things, right? Not everyone can just necessarily do everything great. And like you said, you spoke about the mentalism, and I read about that in escapology. How much training, for example, goes into escapology? I mean, I'm assuming you can't just rock them and go, okay, I'm going to tie myself up and see if I can get out.
Well, I mean, back when I first started, like when I was younger, you know, I tried doing these things, just tie up, like trying to see what they do on TV, copy. But then you sort of, there's a lot of hours of practice, especially if you want to learn how to pick open handcuffs, if you want to sort of, you know what the body can handle, if you want to do anything like, for example, underwater or holding your breath. You know, you have to train your lungs to be able to hold for a certain period of time. And so there's a lot of practice and a lot of hours, like trying different positions, but always doing it like when I do it, I'll have somebody that's around safety-wise so that if I can't get out of a situation, that they can help me out. But otherwise, I like the challenge of, let's try this. Let's try this tie-up sequence, or let's try this.
Let's try this. Let's see.
Yes, that's what can happen.
A lot of it is kind of experimental,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of it is also kind of on the edge of reality mixed with magic. But a lot of the escapology stuff is actually it's like legitimately real. Like when he's picking locks and picking handcuffs, that's not a trick like handcuff or a trick lock. It's like legit stuff. You know, it's an actual skill.
It's not like a lock that dissolves in water.
No.
Like it's an actual.
Although that sounds like a good idea.
I'm telling you. Do you have mentors like to help you? I mean, is it really just watching someone and trying to figure it out, or like YouTubing, or do you actually speak to other musicians and go, look, I've seen you do it. Can you help? And are they then willing to help you and share some of those secrets?
So I will say that, you know, the magic community of South Africa, for me, has been very helpful over the years. I mean, obviously, being from PE, there's not many sort of magicians down in that side of the world. There was only a small handful. But the ones that, the small handful that was down there was always happy to give a helping hand.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't say I had any sort of specific mentor. But there were a couple people that did help me where they could, you know. So I think the magic community of South Africa is very helpful to help, especially the younger people getting into it. So yeah, that was my sort of experience on that.
Speak to me about mentalism. What does that entail? Explain that to us.
So, yeah, basically, I mean, in a nutshell, it's magic of the mind. So it's also using some sort of legitimate psychological principles.
Okay.
You know, there's things like suggestion, which goes into hypnosis, which I do a little bit of hypnosis, but not crazy amounts. But, you know, it's more like suggestion. So, and basically psychological principles to get inside of someone's head, you know, because what actually makes people quite predictable sometimes is the fact that they think they are not predictable, if that makes sense. You know, like also if I asked most people, you know, even the viewing audience here, to just think of the first one-digit number that pops into their head.
Yes.
All right. The chances are they would probably think of the number 7. All right.
Okay.
Because people tend to go for number 7. It's not an exact science.
Yes.
The second most commonly chosen number is 3 and then 9, right? But people are more commonly going for odd numbers over even numbers. So there's little things like that you can take and put into a show to make it seem like, you know, I might be able to predict a 10-digit number or something impossible, or the lotto or something like that, you know. Well, maybe not the real lotto, otherwise there'd be a Lamborghini outside.
Oh, you know. And it's also, I suppose, about reading people's reaction then and seeing how they're reacting to what you're saying and being like, okay.
Yes, it's definitely reading people is a big part of mentalism. I mean, that's a big part of performing magic in general. Again, some of it's not an exact science, but that's essentially in a very sort of small nutshell, because I could talk about that for an hour, seriously. Yeah.
Let me ask you, because sometimes people say it's all about, you know, trying to speak to someone and then something's happening here on the side. What makes a good magician? Is it the fact that you can, like, fool us to look at one place whilst the magic is actually happening somewhere else?
Well, I mean, you do get, obviously, it's, you know, misdirections. So that's why we have, like, assistants or beautiful assistants to distract the eye.
Okay.
But, you know, everyone has the different performance styles.
Okay.
So, I mean, for example, like what I do, so the escapology or the sideshow and things like that, it's all like real based. So I don't use the misdirection as such. People are always like, you watching me do it sort of live right there in front of you. And I like the fact that, you know, you aren't distracted to look away. Yeah. But then other magicians, they do that because they need it when they're doing their certain you know, tricks and things like that, or illusions. So it just depends on the artist, on the magician, how their performance style is, what effect they're trying to achieve. But for me personally, I don't use that as such. I sort of, you know, I'm direct line. You're watching me, you know, eat fire or, you know, do something crazy, and, you know, it's there for you to look at all angles, whatever you want.
So both of you are magicians in your own right, but you also have something that you do together. And with this, you happen to go to the States and blow the socks off of, like, well-known magicians. And this led you to the opportunity to go to Vegas later this year. Just tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so I mean, the two magicians you speak of are Penn and Hulle, all right? And they have, well, you know that, but they have actually had, some people don't know that they actually have had the longest running Las Vegas show of all time. They are both actually people we do look up to. I mean, obviously we weren't mentored by them, but both myself and Lee, like, look up to Penn and Hulle as, like, you know, they are, like, amazing, obviously, in our eyes and things like that. So they've had the show for a while now called Fool Us, which essentially the concept is magicians are invited, considered only the top magicians from around the world are invited to the show to try and fool them with a unique trick that is not existing outside of whatever act has created that particular trick, if that makes sense. So we created this trick and essentially were selected to go, which is a huge feat in itself, is to be selected to actually go to the show in Las Vegas. And that was such an honor. We went there and we performed it for them, for their TV show, and on stage in front of everyone, in front of them, obviously, as well. And by some miracle, we actually fooled them.
And they couldn't figure out how you got to how you did the trick.
because they only get to see the trick once. They don't know who actually appears on the show, so it's complete mystery for them. As soon as we step out, they are only allowed to watch this performance once, and they have one try to sort of try and work out how we actually did the trick.
But even so, I mean, these guys are the best sort of in the industry. Like, I mean, not many people fool them, basically.
Yes.
And the fact that we're the first South African act ever to be invited to the show, and the first act, in fact, from the whole continent to ever fool them, is like, yeah, you know, maybe, you know, there's, I know people aren't, not everyone's crazy about magic and things like that, but this, for us, is like our Oscar, you know. We just got an Oscar of magic, you know.
I think it is brilliant, and like I mentioned earlier, this is not just you guys waking up and like doing a few things. It's like a lot of training that goes into this art form that you do, and I think it is phenomenal. And it is phenomenal that you actually get to go back to Las Vegas and actually perform on the show. It's brilliant. So congratulations with your Oscar of magic. It is really so interesting, but you have to share a few tricks with us and see if you can fool me. I'm sure you will be able to, but we are going to get to that. So bly gerus inskakel net hierna. Kyk ons of jy weet wat hulle doen. Die kulkunstenaars Brendon, en Lee kuier vanoggend by ons en ons gesels heerlik oor waar hulle loopbaan natuurlik begin het, maar ook gaan hulle nou 'n paar van daai kulkunsies vir ons wys. Okay guys, what do you have for us?
All right, so earlier I actually mentioned that I started off doing a lot of card magic, and I really love card magic. So of course, being a magician, I had to go ahead and bring a nice deck of cards here, which I would actually like to first show that, of course, this is a regular deck of cards. You can see that all these cards are completely different, right? You can trust me, I'm a magician. But basically what's going to happen is before you are going to freely select a card, right? You are going to freely select a card by me going one by one, and whenever you get the feeling, you're just going to say stop, and that's going to be your card that is going to be your lucky card, let's say. Before we select your lucky card, or you select your lucky card rather, Lee over here has a
prediction.
What's called a prediction in our industry, all right? That is a black back card. Of course, we're using red back cards just for contrast.
Yes.
But I think, Lee, maybe we have to really sort of lock this prediction in, right? Because it's in his hand, maybe he can swap it out or something like that.
Okay.
So, Lee, I think go ahead, lock that prediction in for us, please.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to lock it in so I can't change my mind at all.
Yes.
And I have the perfect tool to actually lock this in.
Yes.
I actually brought with it a nice little nail that we're actually going to use to lock in. So there's no way that I can change my mind at all.
Okay.
But, in fact, I'm going to go one step further.
Yes.
I'm actually going to lock this in. Since I'm a magician, I also need...
Yes.
So my magic wand just so happens to be...
Oh, wow.
hammer.
Okay.
So, I'm going to lock this in.
Okay,
and
into what?
Into, I think, the best place where I can't change my mind is actually...
No! Ooh. What is happening?
And there we go. That is now the prediction locked in. I'm pretty sure you agree we can't change that right now. All right.
No.
So now what happens is I'm just going to go one by one face up. You're going to say stop wherever you like. Wherever you say stop, I'll take the next card face down, and you're going to take it. All right.
Okay.
So whenever you like.
Okay. That just makes me nervous. Okay, stop.
Right there, all right? Go ahead, take your card, right? Obviously, you can see all these cards are different as we go by.
Yes.
In fact, because you're holding the card, there's nothing I can do.
Am I allowed to look at it?
You can look at it. In fact, you can show us, and we can also show the camera and the audience, and even show Lee, because his prediction is indeed locked in. You said stop whenever you like. What was your card there? Okay, the 8 of hearts, right?
Yes.
Free and fair choice. I'll grab that from you. And you could see, I showed you the deck, of course. All the cards are, of course, completely different. The 8 of hearts, you had a completely free and fair choice wherever you said stop. And Lee has the prediction locked in his nose over here. Let's take a look at indeed what is... He just first has to take the nail out of his nose, all right?
There we go.
And one card, of course, there on the nail. And
that is not possible.
And what was this?
The 8 of hearts.
And indeed, there we go.
Oh,
the 8 of
come
hearts,
on.
a complete, genuine match. So thank you so much for that.
Are you allowed to share how you do that?
Very well, thank you. No, just joking around. You know, there's a whole code amongst magicians that we should basically stick to the magician's code.
Okay, I hear you.
But long as, you know, you enjoyed it, you know, we like to hear sometimes people's theories. They always say, like, how did you do this and this? And I think you did that. But, you know,
I literally have no theory. I have no theory except for being impressed. Yeah. that is my theory. My theory is I am impressed.
No, he has a fake head. Yeah. That's how the nail works.
It comes off.
Yes,
oh,
exactly.
right, I see. He quickly swapped it.
It's a great, using the nail is actually a very great sideshow stunt. It's actually called the human blockhead. So it's actually almost 100 years old that someone's been doing this as an effect. And there's no trickery to it. It literally is a nail I buy from a hardware store, hammer, and I go ahead and I hammer it in.
It's not actually a fake head. That's a real stunt, a real thing that you've just witnessed. Have you ever seen that before live?
I have not.
Okay, then we've lived up to our what we said earlier, that hopefully you've not seen something. But of course we can show you something else if you wish.
Can you? Okay, wait, I'm hearing my ear. Yes, we have more time. Okay, show me something else. Yes.
All right, so basically going with the theme of all sorts of nails, and this is a needle over here, a giant needle. Okay?
Yes.
Now, we had this box of cards earlier, all right? I want to show you here, this is a giant needle.
Yes.
But before we use the needle, Lee has a balloon over here, a long balloon. By the way, these things are very difficult to blow up.
A lot of lung capacity, but since he does escapology...
We have a few more, hopefully, in there.
All right, okay.
You know, this is live.
But I'm saying, since he does escapology, the lungs are, it's got the capacity to blow up a balloon like that, I'm assuming. Okay, so let's see.
It is still extremely difficult, but you know...
Those are the kind of balloons that they make the little poodles from.
Yes, that's actually
okay.
Indeed. So what you can see now, I'm holding this giant needle, and Lee is now having this balloon here. You might see what's about to happen, or maybe not. But before he does this, I want to take the deck of cards like this and take a look at this very carefully, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually try and stick our giant needle through our deck of cards, just like that. You can see that genuinely going through all the way. In fact, I'll pull it like that. You can see even the string going through it entirely. In fact, be careful if you just hold the middle of that needle there. You can see the string sort of coming all the way through, just like that. Now, of course, you might think maybe somehow I swapped the deck and this is just an empty box, right? You might think... Yeah, you might think that. But, and you know what? I did swap the deck, all right? I did swap the deck. I won't lie to you. I did swap the deck. But what's interesting is inside of this box of cards over here, there's not a deck of cards, but it's also not nothing. It's actually a giant solid piece of metal. And you can actually take a look at that. You can actually give that a feel. That is a solid piece of metal. And you can see there's no ways that will be able to go through. Just like that. Now, we do want to try one other thing with this needle in a minute.
Well, firstly, we're going to try something with this balloon. Now, we actually travelled in, so I'm not sure if you've ever seen somebody swallow a sword for real.
Yes. No, not live.
Not live. Now, it's difficult travelling on airlines with that, so I'm going to attempt it with this balloon.
You're going to swallow the balloon?
Yes, I'm going to attempt to swallow this balloon right for you here this morning.
By the way, this is just what he does on weekends, just so you know. The real magic trick is what happens tomorrow morning.
Oh, my hands. I can't. I mean, I've got trouble swallowing a lychee. I mean, what is that?
Yeah, no, this is breakfast. This is breakfast for Lila right now.
I don't know if I can't react, because if I react, he's going to react and choke, and I don't have a medic on standby.
All right. There you can see the whole balloon going inside of his mouth, for real. And indeed, of course, we need to use the pin one last time. For now...
To do what?
And there, indeed. And right out of the mouth, of course.
There we go.
Balloon. There we go.
Wow. Okay, I'm just going
Thank
to
you so
clap. That has been fantastic, guys. I found it so entertaining.
Thank you so much.
I don't even want to know like the kind of tricks you have up your sleeves. It is absolutely brilliant, and what an honor to actually have the two of you on our show today.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for
Seriously.
having us on.
Oh, wow. Jy lyk sommer net awesome right now. Dis fantasties. Dit is natuurlik Lau en Brendon wat vir ons gekuier het, wat ook op pad is oor see en hulle toer die land en oor see plat met hulle kuns wat hulle doen. Wat 'n voorreg.